जय स्वामीनारायण बधाईने સહજાનંદ સ્વામી મહારાજની જય, બાપા શ્રીની જય, સદગુરુઓ શ્રીની જય, સ્વામિનારાયણ ભગવાનની જય તથા અનંત અનાદિ મુક્તોની જય. A humble prayer in their lotus feet and our Guru Anadi Muktraj Narayan Mama and Leela Masi's lotus feet to augment this assembly with their divinity and grace. I humbly bow to their feet and pray to them to shower their blessings on us now and forever for the bliss of the divine Murti of Lord Swaminarayan. I also request forgiveness from them as well as from the divine Satsang to pardon my mistakes and shortcomings and ignorance. Last month we talked about how Supreme Lord Sri Swaminarayan exhibited character ethic, paradigm shift, and not only gave us principles in the form of 5 codes of conduct, but also gave us values in the form of Sikshapatri. These few things are at the core of the 7 habits of the highly effective people. We had also discussed that today we will delve into the first 3 habits. However, when I was reflecting through it, I realized that there is one important concept that we have not touched upon. There is a lot of emphasis on it in the book and the audio CDs by Stephen Covey. And so our journey in establishing high effectiveness of Lord Swaminarayan will be incomplete without covering the topic. So we'll cover that topic first and then move to the 7 habits. This topic is also one of the founding principles of highly effective people. So Kavi says that just like there are financial bank accounts, there is an emotional bank account. We can make deposits in people's emotional bank account and we can make a withdrawal. If we have made enough deposits, we are allowed to make withdrawals. But if we have not made enough deposits, the withdrawals will definitely take a toll on the relationship we have with that individual. The deposits are courtesy, respect, patience, openness, humility, trust. And on the flip side, the withdrawals are discourtesy, disrespect, cutting one off, ignoring, threatening, betraying trust, not fulfilling commitments. Violating a basic promise makes the trust level very low. When the trust level is very low, there is no flexibility in the relationship. No one is allowed to make any mistakes. In many couples, we see that the partners are ready to find any flaw that they can possibly find in their partner. The underlying problem is that they have both been constantly withdrawing from each other's emotional bank accounts without making many deposits. The key to every deposit is to know what a deposit is for that particular individual. I can share a personal experience on this. Way back in the early stages of my profession, I had just about transitioned into a management role from a software developer's role. It was a conscious decision that I had made that I wanted to grow on the management side. Now, once we were resource crunched, and I happened to tell my manager that I can double up as a developer to get through the crisis. She took it as I was not happy in my management role and wanted to move back being a developer. So she started giving me more and more programming work even after the crisis was over. It was not until I had a conversation with her that she realized that she was actually not making any deposits in my emotional bank account, but instead was constantly withdrawing from it. An effective person recognizes what is a deposit for each individual and then makes those deposits to build the social capital and trust. Kavi also explains how to make deposits. One way to make a great deposit, he says, is to know important promises, make a promise, and complete your promise. Not making or breaking them is a huge withdrawal. When we look at Lord Swaminarayan's life, Lord Swaminarayan's advent itself was a promise. Prior to the advent of Lord Swaminarayan, the righteous human beings were badly battered spiritually, emotionally, socially, and physically by the unrighteous ones, including Lord Swaminarayan's parents. After trying all options, they prayed to Lord Narayan in Badrikashram to help them. While Lord Narayan was soothing their spirits and calming them, Durvasa Rishi arrived. And since everyone was so grief-struck, they could not give him a proper welcome. Durvasa Rishi got angry and cursed them to go back on earth and suffer more. Later, everyone calmed Rishi's anger down. So he said he cannot pull back his curse, so they'll have to suffer, but their suffering will be ended when Lord Narayan, who too was included in the curse, manifested on earth. Once the Rishi left, Lord Narayan made a promise to the righteous ones that he will come and rescue them. Lord Swaminarayan manifested on this earth to keep that promise. So he not only created the right situations to bring up the reasons to make the promise and got the promise made, but he, in the stead of Lord Narayan, fulfilled that promise. That probably is the highest kind of effectiveness and the biggest deposit in the emotional bank account of the righteous ones then and now. Before manifesting, Lord Swaminarayan asked his Anadimukto to advent on earth too. When they asked about the purpose, the mission, the lifestyle, he promised them, I will stay with you and together we will liberate the souls. Once Ghanshyambhai was playing with his friends near Narayan Sarovar in Chapaiya. All of a sudden he became very sad, stopped playing with his friends, climbed to the top of a tree and started looking towards the west. His friend Veni Madhav noticed that after some time and climbed the tree and brought him down. Ghanshyambhai's friends then asked him why he was so longingly looking towards the west. He said he has promises to keep, and his other friends were waiting for him in the west. And he kept his promise and came to the west to establish Uddhav Sampradaya, or what we now popularly know as Swaminarayan Sampradaya. So today is November 16th, 2014. Exactly 213 years ago, on this day, November 16th, 1801, Lord Swaminarayan was named descendant of Sadguru Anadi Muktraj Param Pujya Ramanand Swami in Jetpur, and he asked for 2 boons. Lord Swaminarayan displayed immense humility and respect for others. Since Sadguru Ramanand Swami happened to be his guru on this earth, Lord Swaminarayan made these 2 promises by way of asking for boons from his guru. Those two boons or promises are: first, if a devotee is to suffer the pain of a sting of a scorpion, then may I suffer the pain of tens of millions of stings in every follicle, but that pain not come to my devotee. And second, if a devotee is to live in destitution, then may that destitution come to me, but my devotee have enough and apt food and clothing. These two unparalleled promises that Lord Swaminarayan made 213 years ago are true even today. Not a single satsangi is without enough food and clothing. And every satsangi gets a life that is manageable in terms of pain and suffering. A promise made and kept so well for centuries now, and will continue to be kept till eternity. And if you're thinking the above two promises are unparalleled, the next one that we'll talk about is unheard of. Lord Swaminarayan has promised that he will come to fetch the souls of the devotees when it is time for them to leave their body. We are all part of that promise, and we have experienced this first-hand in our families when Lord Swaminarayan has divinely informed about the day of departure in advance to a great devotee, and then come over to gracefully take the soul with him. The life is a means to an end, and that end is spiritual progress, growth, and ultimate liberation. That is the biggest deposit anyone can ever think of making in every liberation aspiring satsangi's emotional bank account. Now that is what is an absolute mark of a highly effective person. The other way of making a deposit in emotional bank account, Kavi says, is doing the acts of simple kindness. Being kind to people. Discourtesy is the related withdrawal. Now we sing this devotional song or kirtan every day. Pati dayalu re, swabhav chhe swami no par dukh hari re. Wari bahunami no koi ne dukhiyo re. Dekhi na khamay daya aani re. Ati akda thaya andhan vastra re. आपी ने दुख टाड़े करुणा दृष्टि रे करता वान जवाड़े. As mentioned in this kirtan, Lord Swaminarayan was very kind and benevolent. He could not tolerate the pain and suffering of others. and his heart would immediately reach out to them to take away their sufferings by giving them whatever they needed: food, wealth, and clothes, just name it. There are countless incidents from Lord Swaminarayan's life which reflect his acts of kindness. If we start listing all such documented incidents, the list itself will take many satsang to read through. Leave alone the incident themselves, just the list. And since our focus is on overall personality of Lord Swaminarayan and on our framework to show that he was a highly effective spiritual leader, for now we will only take one incident. After walking forward from Jagannath Puri and Manasa, Nilkantvarni arrived at a village by a wide river. There was a devotee of Lord Shiv who worshipped at the Hateshwar Shiv temple. He desired wealth and had been leading life with austerity. Upon Nilkantvarni's arrival, this devotee had a divine vision of Lord Shiv, in which Lord Shiv told him, "My master is here, in the form of Nilkantvarni. Express your desires to him. He will not only fulfill your desire, but will also grant you liberation." The devotee returned from his meditative samadhi state and looked around and saw Nilkantvarni. He immediately held Nilkantvarni's feet and said, "You are the Supreme God. Please fulfill my desire for wealth." Nilkantvarni said, "Wealth is fleeting. It does not stay forever. Liberation is eternal. I will grant you liberation." The devotee said, "Yes, I want to get liberated, but I also want a life comfortable enough to spend in your worship and meditation. So please grant me wealth too." Upon which Lord Swaminarayan, just out of his kind nature, told the devotee to dig 15 feet on the right side of the Shiv temple, and buried under just a few feet of dirt, he found all the wealth that would last for his lifetime. So though the sole purpose of the visit to earth was to liberate the souls, Lord Swaminarayan also took care of the lives of people here on earth out of sheer kindness. Now coming back to emotional bank account, Kavi says, another huge deposit is to clarify expectations. Leaving them ambiguous is a withdrawal. This is more important in organizations than in families. In families, things are very informal and naturally more cohesive. But still, in most of the families, we see non-written distribution of responsibilities. For example, Dad might be responsible for picking up the kids from school and helping them with homework, whereas Mom might be responsible for getting them ready in the morning, and dropping them at the school. Many a times in management, managers do not clearly convey the roles and responsibilities. They leave them ambiguous, resulting in everybody stepping on each other's toes all the time. The result is duplication of efforts, wasted time, frustration, and distrust. When we look at life of Lord Swaminarayan, he did a wonderful job at clearly laying down the roles and responsibilities. He has clearly mentioned who does what principles apply to whom, and in what situations. I have not seen a comprehensive description of responsibilities yet, like the one described in Desh Vibhagno Lekh, or for that matter in the Sikshapatri. Desh Vibhagno Lekh, as we all know, is the description of who, what, when, and how of the two leadership seats of Swaminarayan religion. It is so well written that it could readily be entered as a legal document in the court of law even after 150 to 200 years since it was written. A copy of this is available on the Vadtal Temple website for those who are interested in reading it. Other way of making deposit is remaining loyal to the absent or not backbiting. We do not see a single incident documented anywhere in the entire life of Lord Swaminarayan where he has indulged into gossip, in making fun of others, in talking about people when they are not present. Not one incident. And there are volumes of documented incidents from his life. But there is not one incident where he is disloyal to the absent. Yet another way of making a deposit into emotional bank account is by giving and receiving feedback. If we do not help ourselves, our family members, our satsang co-voyagers, our co-workers become better by giving and receiving feedback, then everything we talk about progress and openness and humility is just talks with no real substance backing up those words. People soon realize the hollowness of those words and label such people as pretentious. Kavi says that the feedback should be given from perspective of I, then you. For example, saying, I am concerned about a particular behavior is better than saying, your particular behavior is bad. Lord Swaminarayan actually took this to the next level. When we give feedback, we indirectly point to the problem and sometimes even give a solution to the problem. Lord Swaminarayan adopted the style of questioning so that the people can actually identify the problem through their own thought process, thus encouraging deep thinking for self-evaluation and self-development. Let's take one example. After Lord Swaminarayan took on the responsibilities of the leader of the satsang, he was still not that well renowned, though the satsang was growing by leaps and bounds by the day. So the old timers from Sadguru Ramanand Swami's time thought of him as their guru, but still had subtle casualness about him. During this time, once Lord Swaminarayan travelled from Dhuraji to Upleta early in the morning. He arrived at the river Moj and close to the palatial home of the king of the village. He bathed in the soothing waters to wear away his tiredness from the travel. He then arrived at the home of Nathu Babaria, where Sudhi Bai and Malai Bai were having breakfast. Lord Swaminarayan asked them, "What are you ladies doing?" They said, "Sriji Maharaj, we are having breakfast." He said, "I'm hungry too. I would like to have some too. Can you give me some breakfast?" So the ladies, due to the subtle casualness in their mind, said, "Why don't you help yourself, since we are eating right now? Here is a clean plate. There is yogurt over there, and porridge is in that cooking vessel." So Lord Swaminarayan, humble as he was, helped himself. By the time he started having his breakfast, the ladies finished theirs and asked Lord Swaminarayan if he wanted some milk. He said yes. So Sudhi Bai started pouring milk for Lord Swaminarayan, but kept the cream from floating in. So Lord Swaminarayan said, "Sudhi Bai, let the cream float in. I need it to make ghee," she responded, and did not let the cream float in. So Lord Swaminarayan said, "That's fine. Keep it if you need it." Lord Swaminarayan at that point did not give any feedback. When anyone comes to our home, we should feed them to their content. That is a fundamental trait of a good human being. Anyone who visited Anadi Muktrat Param Pujya Narayan Mama and Leela Masi around the time of meal never went back home hungry or discontent. So, after finishing his breakfast and washing his hands, Lord Swaminarayan sat in the seating area and asked Sudhi Bai, "Sudhi Bai, what do you think of me? What does it mean for us to know each other?" Sudhibai responded, "You are my spiritual guru." He then continued, "I am easily accessible now, so it may not be obvious, but in future I will conduct extensive religious celebrations, and great kings will join those, and thousands of people will arrive, and you too will be part of that. However, at that time, I will not be that easily accessible as I am today." Sudhibai started thinking about her past experiences, how Lord Swaminarayan's presence in her and her family's life had transformed everything into a pleasant and blissful experience, how his being around brought an unknown sense of security. She further thought of life when he will not be so readily accessible, and could not bear the thought. She soon reflected on her behavior earlier in the morning and realized her mistake. She immediately asked for forgiveness and brought milk with cream for Lord Swaminarayan. Now this is the real way of giving feedback, inspiring the thought process to make people reflect on their behavior and realize their own mistakes. Nothing compares to this type of feedback and is truly a deposit in the emotional bank account. Yet another way to make a deposit into the emotional bank account is to use patience and persuasion than physical force and coercion. Those who are not effective try to use power of money or their social status to bring alignment. This might be efficient in the short run, but it does not build long-term relationships or long-standing institutions or organizations. To build something that is long-lasting, inspirational and encouraging, an effective person always uses patience and persuasion. Lord Swaminarayan did the same. He patiently lived through and observed all the behaviors and behavioral patterns of human beings and used persuasion to lead people in the right direction. Those who did not get persuaded by normal conversations, he used divine powers to persuade and convince them, not because he wanted to exhibit his powers, but because human beings need to see superhuman things to be persuaded sometimes. Oh, the stubborn bunch that we are. So one persuasion pattern that is commonly observed in the life of Lord Swaminarayan is telling or doing what the humans resolved in their mind to accept his spiritual supremacy or leadership. Let's look at one such incident. Once in Magrod, Lord Swaminarayan had visited Govardhan Bai's place. Next day in the morning, he, Govardhan Bai, and many other devotees and saints went to Lake Doodh for a bath. On the way, affluent Ramchandra Shah and Lord Swaminarayan were left a few feet behind. At that point, Ramchandra Shah thought, just as Lord Krishna had picked up Govardhan mountain on the tip of his small finger, If Lord Swaminarayan moves this large boulder with his finger and brings it by the lake, it will help me get convinced that he is the Supreme Lord, and it will help the villagers to use the boulder for washing clothes. Lord Swaminarayan immediately spoke up. Ramchandra Shah, not just a mountain. I can move the entire earth with the tip of my finger. But just to convince you, why don't you decide where you want the boulder to be and go and touch the boulder with the tip of your finger? Ramchandra Shah did that, and immediately a 32-ton boulder moved 150 feet in the blink of an eye and came by the rim of the lake. Now that is some persuasion. And there is no way one will not be convinced by this kind of persuasion. Other persuasion technique that Lord Swaminarayan commonly used was meditative trance or samadhi. Samadhi is the end of Eightfold Yoga. After all the yoga practices, the expected outcome is to attain samadhi. Lord Swaminarayan could put souls in samadhi by simple gesture of hand or the sound of the bells in his footwear. In samadhi, he showed his divine abode, divine form of other deities, showed them merging in his divine form. He did not use any force or fear, but used a real divine experience, not readily available to normal human beings. We will talk more about samadhi incidents when we look into the leadership qualities of Lord Swaminarayan. The third persuasion technique that Lord Swaminarayan used is clearly visible in Vachanamritam, asking thought-provoking questions, persuading ever-questioning minds of the humans by quenching their thirst for knowledge, imparting knowledge to the earthlings. We will now move to the last way Kavi describes for making an emotional bank deposit. Ability to apologize with true sincerity. Simply saying sorry and not meaning it is not a real apology. Real apology is when you say sorry and you mean it. So, apology with true sincerity. That makes a huge deposit in the emotional bank account of people. And there are two incidents that readily come to mind. It is mentioned in Gopalan Swami Nivato and Gunaditanand Swami Nivato that when it was time to write Satsangi Jivan, Lord Swaminarayan asked Nityanand Swami to write it. Nityanand Swami said he would write it, but will mention Lord Swaminarayan as the Supreme Lord. Lord Swaminarayan did not want to do that. So he asked Nityanand Swami to go back to his seat of meditation. Next day, in the assembly of all other saints, Lord Swaminarayan said, I want to get a scripture created, but Nityanand Swami is going against my will and emphasizing that supremacy of Swaminarayan philosophy should be mentioned. What does everybody think? And then the discussion continued through the day between Lord Swaminarayan and Sadguru Nityanand Swami, and they went back to their respective seats. End of the day, came back again the next day, did the same thing, and this continued for 7 days. On the 7th day, Lord Swaminarayan said, "Who in this assembly supports Nityanand Swami and who supports me?" No one supported Nityanand Swami because first, they did not realize the matter was serious, and second, they did not want to displease the divine Godhead, Lord Swaminarayan. Lord Swaminarayan then asked Surakhachar, one of the leading devotees, to ask his men to drop Nityanand Swami in deep forest from where he can never come back. Surakhachar was well aware that soon Lord Swaminarayan will miss Nityanand Swami. So he asked his men to go for a long horse ride with Nityanand Swami, bring him back to one of his homes and make him comfortable there, and return to the assembly and tell Lord Swaminarayan that they did what they were asked to do. Surakhachar's men did the same and came back after 3-4 hours and told Lord Swaminarayan that they left Nityanand Swami in deep forest from where he can never come back. Next day, in the assembly, Sadguru Muktanand Swami said, "We lost the jewel of the assembly." Lord Swaminarayan was a little surprised by the comment and said, "There are no material possessions for a saint." Muktanand Swami responded, "I am talking about Nityanand Swami. He was the crown jewel of the assembly, and he stood up for the right thing, and you let him go." Lord Swaminarayan immediately started thinking and said, "Muktanand Swami, today you really proved that you are my Guru. I was mistaken." Lord Swaminarayan then became very sad and obviously upset, and tears started rolling down his cheeks. In front of the whole assembly, he said, "I was too strong on Nityanand Swami. It was just a disagreement. I miss him. This assembly seems lifeless without him. Where must he be? What must have happened to him? What must he be doing in that formidable forest with wild animals and nothing to eat or drink? Please tell me we can bring him back." The men who had taken Nityanand Swami were called back immediately. As per Surakhachar's instructions, they went away for a few hours, then came back and said they could not find a trace of Nityanand Swami. Upon which Lord Swaminarayan became extremely despondent and gave up food. It was then that Surakhachar asked his men to bring back Nityanand Swami. Upon seeing Nityanand Swami, tears started rolling with both Lord Swaminarayan and Nityanand Swami. Lord Swaminarayan gave Nityanand Swami a hug and then praised him in front of the entire assembly. Everybody gave in to my persuasion and coercion, but Nityanand Swami did not. That is truly admirable. He was the only one who had the courage to stand up for the right thing. And then the writing of Satsangi Jivan started afterwards. The other incident that shows that Lord Swaminarayan had no qualms about sincerely apologizing. Once in the assembly in Gadra, Lord Swaminarayan reprimanded women devotees for some uncleanliness and said that they can no longer come to see him or come to do his darshan, or they can no longer attend his assembly. The women devotee never ate without his darshan, so they went hungry that day. Next day, Lord Swaminarayan had diarrhea and had to get up multiple times in the middle of a cold night and became very weak. So the devotees placed 3 quilts to keep him warm and also placed coal heating stoves by his feet. At night, the devotee Naja Jogia, who was there to take care, fell asleep. And the corners of the 3 quilts that Lord Swaminarayan was using fell into the heating stove and caught fire. Lord Swaminarayan woke up, put the fire out, and then woke Naja Jogia up and said, I reprimanded the women devotees yesterday, and now today I burnt their quilts. I am sure they are very upset with me. I should not have reprimanded them. I am not feeling well, and now I burnt their quilts too. Let's run away. Naja Jogia said, let me go talk to them. If they sound upset, we will do as you say. But if they do not get upset, then you have no reason to worry. At that, Lord Swaminarayan continued his display of human-like behavior. You must be out of your mind to think that they will not be upset. But if you want to try it, I'll wait for you to come back. Naja Jogia then went and spoke with women devotees, Laduba, Jivuba, and others, and told them what was going on. They responded, we do not care about the 3 quilts. This entire palace is his. We do not care that he reprimanded us. He is our Lord, and he has the right to point to our mistakes. We are worried about his health. How is he doing? Naja Jogia told them he was doing better, and then came back and conveyed the message to Lord Swaminarayan, and also mentioned that the ladies had not eaten for last 2 days. So Lord Swaminarayan said, ask them to make food for me and for themselves, because they will not make food just for themselves. And tell them that they can come for my darshan, they can come and see me. I am not upset with them at all. When the women devotees came for darshan, he hid his face with the burnt corners of the quilts with just the eyes visible and had tears in his eyes. Women devotees also had tears in their eyes and said, Shriji Maharaj, There are no worries about the quilt or your reprimand. So please forgive anything we did to upset you. And let's get things back to normal. Next day in the assembly, Lord Swaminarayan praised the devotion of the women devotees, that they accepted his reprimand with a very positive attitude and are so devoted that they do not eat without his darshan. So today we talked about emotional bank account and incidents from life of Lord Swaminarayan that relate to how he made deposits into the emotional bank accounts of the human beings. Next month we will delve further into the habits. With that, let's rest here for today. We'll continue forward in another 3-4 weeks. My humble Charan Sparsh Sahajay Swaminarayan to all the Muktos. Sahajanand Swami Maharaj Ni Jai. Bapa Shri Ni Jai. Sadguru Shri Ni Jai. Swaminarayan Bhagwan Ni Jai. Vishal bhai, over to you.
થેન્ક્સ પુનિતાબેન, બધાને અનમ્યુટ કરું છું. આ બધા પુનિતાબેનના જે બધા ઇંગ્લિશમાં લેક્ચર છે ને, બધા હું પછી ડાઉનલોડ કરી એક આખી થોડી 7-8 લેક્ચર થયા ને, now I'll be able to upload them into our YouTube channel.